Okay, so here we are again in an attempt to help those of you that might try this sometime. I'm going to go through some of my trials and tribulations. This hasn't been smooth, but we've done more shooting the last day or two as we're trying to work out the frowny faces in my 5-piece billet. Started out as a billet with a skinny front end and it rocked and rolled. So I added a widener on it, it didn't work. I took the keel off. So we're working on trying to find out, and in the end we want this thing to shoot off a rolled up coat. So I've been working my way through that, and I'm going to tell you and show you whether or not we made any progress. But in the meantime, I have somewhat smoothed up my reloading sequences because remember, I'm going through 4 different guns using just this equipment here and trying to make it quick and easy. One of the guns broke, blew out the muzzle brake. I had to order many dollars worth of stainless steel. Couldn't buy it locally even though I'm in Portland, Vancouver area. So I had to order it from Master Car and it should be here within the week. But the screen door set aside, that gun set aside. Luckily the 5-piece billet, now that I've got it built out to 5 inches wide, is waterproof enough that I've got a water-soaked towel I've been draping over it. And that's my latest thing right now is basically I'm loading away merrily and just keeping the gun cool with a towel. And I'm down to the point where as long as I waste a little time like this, that's another reason. I just ran through a string of 3 groups and I need just a 10-minute set down to let the gun cool with the soaked towel laying over the top of it, the wet towel laying over the barrel. And I figured, you know, I've been using this enough now that it's starting to roll, it's starting to slide, so I'm going to come in here and show you some of the moves. Let's start with the fact that the squeezy neck Lee collet die hasn't worked out for me with this chamber. 4 chambers, screen door not in the mix right now, although one of my dies setups fit that really well. The 2-piece billet, my best BR setup, little heavier, 22 pounds, but still packable. When I say best BR, remember, I'm working the whole gamut. I'm trying to go from a lightweight hunting gun to some kind of a BR setup because I've got to find out what this 50 BMG can even do. So I got a collet die in the interest of that, and early on I took this decapping part out and I was just using that to decap, and I was somewhere along the way I came up with the idea that this powder and this combination likes neck tension. I've got over 100 groups through this thing, or over 100 rounds through this pig now. And I realized that I'm on load 12 on these cases. So I'm just going to show you. Okay, first of all, this failure. I don't know how to use a collet die very good. Figured I would just show you a picture of what I did with these, trying to set it up and up and up before I throw these away. I don't need those. Collet die on this particular chamber, bit of a fail. But again, as I've tried to say before, I don't know much about the Lee collet die assembly at all anyway. Let me make sure these are right side up. So, kludgy setup, but I didn't want to devote my whole life. Keep a set of feeler gauges close so that I can set from the shell holder to the bottom of the case for the different chambers. Right now on this particular set of cases I've chosen to use the my modified sizing die. This case needs to be decapped and sized. While I'm here I'm going to show you something. I'm going to go ahead and I've been taking notes. I monitor this, so I'm just going to show you how I monitor and take notes. This is now showing 835, 0.835 is my fire dim. Now, I could show you all the way through. I normally do 3 of them every third, whatever, but that 835 has been consistent. That's what these are blowing out to right now. Now, I put a little sizing lube just a quarter of the way down the neck and just around the area that's going to be sized down here. And while my hands are goopy, there's another thing you have to understand. This is another box of pure lanolin. In my opinion, the dirty little secret that reading between the lines gives me is that the effective lubricant in all of these sizing dyes is lanolin. So I just go right to the source and use this sheep stink. And it works, and I'm putting it on thicker than I normally would on a lot of like BR cases, but this seems to respond well. As I've said, this is the 12th firing. I've just polished these up so that we can inspect them really well for growth. They haven't grown. 12th firing at 240 to 242.5 grains. Right now I'm playing with seeding depth because I'm trying to sort out. These suckers are hard to shoot. This nick on my knuckle right here is actually 4 or 5 nicks, and it finally hit me hard enough that I'm bleeding a little bit, and I decided I have to do something about it. Trying to hold these guns down is a mother. Trying to shoot them free recoil is hard. Trying to ride them is hard. Everything about these, I'm learning, they're humiliating me. And teasing me, and I'm loving every second of it. So anyway, I'm just going to show you the moves on this before I get distracted. This is a die that I have modified in the lathe, and it still takes a pretty good effort to size it. And this straight lanolin is so sticky, guys, that I do them, 3 at a time. And I've been doing them because this doesn't catch very well. I just occasionally reach down and pick these up and go throw them in the garbage. But I needed something that can catch because they pop out pretty good. And that means that they go different ways, because I'd had to take this ram and modify it. The weirdest thing happened. These big primers will not physically fit through this ram to drop. So around the back side of the ram, I had to go mill a hole. It's got a great big milled hole in the back, so the primers come rattling down and they pop out that hole. And I milled the hole plenty big because I didn't want to dink around with it. And because it's milled plenty big, primers pop all over the place. So, I wiped these off several times because straight lanolin is a lot harder to clean off than the stuff that you buy that's got naphtha additives and emollients and cutting agents. And this pure lanolin, which incidentally still smells like sheep. Talking to my buddy Jesse about that, and he said, well, I think that's what it is. I think they just suck the stink right out of the sheep. And we both know that sheep smell of a lot of different things than lanolin. But the funny thing is, this medical grade stuff, no matter how much you pay for lanolin, it still smells like sheep. Less all the feces and stuff stuck to real sheep's hair, which sheep are stinky little buggers, second only to goats. But that aside, these are, let's bring these up so you can see them. I'll throw a little on here. This is the 12th group that these have fired. These are some pretty consistent ones. If I were to roll them around, you would see that the bases are pretty consistent. But now I'm going to show you my change out and how I go about this. I will be wiping these off again, and I might do that off camera because it's just a time waster. So this setup stays the way it is, but now I come over here and it's got a seating die in it because I just seated with it. So I pull this seating die out, and I stick it over here in my holder. I stick this decapper in, I run this down, and again, I'm sorry to be repeating myself here, but some of you might find this, as it's evolved, interesting. Stick this in here. I'm losing a little time because I didn't have my primers open. Primers are seating. I'll show you that again. This is why I'm adding this one in, because now that I've... Oh, got to put a cartridge in there. I don't normally keep my hand that close because I'm scared of these big primers. You'll notice I have safety glasses on. And now I turn my head a little bit. These are seating very nicely. As I said, I'm completely happy with that seating assembly. Flattens them just a little bit, sets them flush. I can actually measure my overall lengths. I'm done here. I slip over here, I do this part. Now I'm going to slip this camera back around here. Maybe spend just a minute here showing some of my notes. I keep lots of notes. The last load was an overall length of 6.227, and I'll show you how I arrive at that here in just a second. Oh, I remember I wanted to stop show you this big rocket. I've been using little ones. This guy is like 30 bucks, but it's very well built. And it's been keeping these in trim really well. So, we'll slide on over here. Spin around jump shot, get you some that. Now, because I'm shooting, my scale is drifting like a mother again. And I don't know if this is correct or not, but I just have to keep re-zeroing this thing. And a lot of times it really seems like I'm repeating myself. It seems like what I'm shooting for here is 242.5 grains. Now whether I'm getting that or not is a whole different thing. This is one, okay, so I've got that zeroed. I throw this on there. 244.58. I take out a kernel. That brings me down to 244.52. I think I'm going to stay there because my loads vary between 244.48 and 244.52 because a kernel of this powder weighs 4/10 of a grain. So I set this aside now, and I actually start, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I start tapping this in as I'm rolling this one in because these take so long to tap in. I run this one up, and I do this over a clean section of bench so that if I drop any kernels out, which I just did, I pick it back up. 242.78, this one threw quite over. 4.6, I'm going to go one more grain, probably end up around 5.4 again. Unless there's an errant. There's no breeze in here, but I'm telling you, this humidity is changing on me. And just every day that I shoot, my scales go wonky, even though it's quite a ways over there. 242.42. That's scaring me a little bit because I feel like it went up and dropped back. So I might get a little wider ES on this one. 242.48, I'm going to leave that. Just because we're videotaping. I sometimes go back, I mentioned this in another video as to how I sometimes have to do this 3 times to ascertain that I'm actually in the ballpark. And again, I don't care if the relativity is off. I don't care if the loads are varying by 10 or 12. There we got a 5.2. I'm just going to take that the same way so that I can get this back on and get it holding 0. So, I know that there's a little TMI going on right here. And I'm not being really smooth, but hang on a second. No, we're good. That's how long it took me to load, and then I visually check them. Yes, all of these are loaded. I normally have my loading block here. I'm a little discombobulated. So I'm going to spin around jump shot. See if I don't forget anything here. Roll this Camarera over. why this is pointing in some weird areas. This is not so smooth. Okay, back over to here. Oh, gotta tighten it up a little bit. Okay, got the important stuff in there as long as I got the moon pies. Okay, so now we're back over here where we just left. We've just sized here. This is still set up for capping, priming. So we pop these out. I'm checking here to make sure I'm getting everything. And I'm playing with seating depth on this load because I've got a situation where I'm getting some unexplained vertical. I think it's because of my bags and because of bumping off my knuckle. I think that because the shots are correlating. But in any case, you know what? I'm not going to fiddle with the seating depth. I was going to crank the seating depth down, but I'm not. I'm going to shoot the exact same load. I'm up at the point where I'm starting to shoot groups of 2. So, now it's a matter of double check these again, make sure they're loaded. And I mean, you all know this part. There's no trick here. I am switching different lots. There's so many reasons why, you know, I have to figure a little bit of extra space in these groups because every box of these that I've got are from different years and different lots, so these bullets are not identical. But there's a nice set of freshly loaded 50 BMG rounds. Just tipping around so you can see. Now understand, this particular chamber is 19, as near as I can tell, about 19 and 2/10 or so oversized that I cut out of the die. So you can see tremendous bulge on here, but 12 reloads at this point. 12 groups. This is the 13th reload. And this is the point where I'm inspecting carefully for, if I can get in here so I can show you how I measure these for length and how I keep my notes. So I inspect these visually and I look for the separation line. I look for the gray line. Now when I polish these up, when I do this, I use a product called Neverdull, which some shooters are well aware of, some aren't. You can polish this area. These cases have to be wiped off before I put them in the chamber anyway, so now is as good a time as any to run a final polish. I just checked these. I wasn't going to check them this time, but this video is to show you some of the things I check. And while I have the Neverdull on my fingers, I wipe them all tight, scrubby, 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 roughly the same. I put the Neverdull away. And I wipe these down, and I wipe them down good at this stage. And I wipe them all down with this dirty rag, and then because I'm anal like that, and because I'm shooting a big gun, and because I'm making my cases last a long time, 99% of the time, I then reach up and grab a brand new piece of paper towel, and assiduously wipe these so that I get dry in the chamber. There have been situations where I'm running high pressure, where I actually will use acetone or something and clean these off. But these are cleaned off nice and shiny, and what that allows us to do is get a really, really good look. I don't know if I can get the focus really, really good, but it allows me to look for, when I say the grainy ring around there, that's a sign of, because these are blown out so wide, they're just working this direction and it's easy to see. They're not stretching at all. They haven't grown in length at all. These have been reloaded, if my math is right, 13 times now. They've shot 12 groups. So no, they've probably been done 12 times. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. So then I'm going to show you one last thing. This is kind of, I have this note that this one right here is 6.227. Now, this is one of those bullet seeders that I showed earlier, as how, so I can get the light to change out. Well, it's fine. And I don't know if the focus is good. I have a couple of these bullet seating stems, and I turned them so that they fit pretty far down. This one doesn't fit as far down on the ogive as the other one, but I'm using it just to take relative measurements. These measurements don't mean anything. But before I go shoot this, I have to take this measurement right here, and I can take it over the primer because I just showed you a minute ago. Those primers are seated perfectly. This is the same as it was last time, 6.226. And right here we had 6.227. That was actually 6.2265. We'll try another one. Anything within a thou is hello, guys. Let's not get stupid. But anyway, I haven't changed the seating depth on this. Come on. It's really hard to get these long apparatuses in here. But anyway, that's the move. This time I'm reading 6.229. I have to presume that the other seeder is seating right down here. So these are up and ready. I'm going to go ahead and get these out and fire them, and then I'll record where I'm at now, because I've been fighting with this gun in particular because it's shooting these groups that are wide, and let's not go into all that. But there's the loading sequence that I'm using right now as I'm working up this gun, which is the only one I have in rotation right now because everything else is busted or bedded or something else going on. So next time we'll probably take this recording apparatus out to the bench and show you some shooting, how she's a running.